For 60 years, no one knocked on his door. No neighbors, no friends, no family. It was like he never existed. Until one day, when a young nurse found a forgotten journal tucked deep in a drawer. In the quiet corner of an old apartment building lived an elderly man no one really noticed. To most, he was just a recluse, maybe even a little odd. But decades ago, he was something else entirely. A soldier, a warrior, a hero. And like many heroes, he came home to silence. The medals were boxed away, the memories buried. No parades, no visitors, just time and dust. Then one day, a nurse sent to clean his apartment stumbled upon something extraordinary, a weathered, dust-covered journal. Its pages weren't just memories. They were confessions of a forgotten battle, of pain buried deeper than any wound, of loyalty, courage, and betrayal. And from that moment on, everything changed. Welcome to The Last Stand. Today's story isn't just about one man. It's a tribute to countless veterans who came back, but were never truly seen again. Do you know someone like that? Maybe a quiet neighbor down the hall, or a relative no one visits anymore? Share your thoughts in the comments. This is more than a story. It's a call to remember. The apartment smelled like time. Not mold or decay, but the kind of still air that settles in after years of silence. It was the third unit on the left, second floor, just past the crooked fire escape. The kind of place you pass without noticing. The kind of place that forgets you just as quickly. Nurse Claire adjusted the strap of her bag, glanced at the faded number plate 2B, and knocked softly. No answer. She knocked again, firmer this time. Still nothing. The paperwork said, routine wellness check. Male. Late 80s. No recent contact. She took a breath, slid on a pair of gloves, and turned the key the building manager had given her. The door creaked open slowly. It wasn't messy. It wasn't even dusty. It was meticulous. Everything in its place. Framed photos lined the hallway, most of them black and white. A younger man in uniform. A woman in a swing dress. A child holding a flag. Claire stepped in, calling softly. "Mr. Bennett, it's Nurse Claire. I'm here for your check-in." Silence. She moved slowly through the apartment. The furniture looked like it hadn't moved in decades. Lace doilies. A record player. Books, so many books, all stacked with care. A blanket neatly folded at the end of a floral sofa. And then, just past the living room, she saw him, sitting in a recliner by the window, back straight. Hands folded, eyes closed. Her breath caught. She rushed forward and gently touched his wrist. Warm, still alive. She exhaled. "Mr. Bennett," she whispered, touching his shoulder. "Sir, can you hear me?" He stirred, eyes fluttering open, pale blue. Tired. Distant. "Claire?" he rasped, his voice barely audible. "Yes, I'm Claire. Just here to check in on you, okay?" He nodded faintly. She moved quickly, blood pressure, pulse, cognitive questions. He answered in single words, eyes mostly fixed on the window. Outside, the world moved on. Inside, time stood still. 2 weeks passed. Claire kept checking in. Every other day she brought him soup, adjusted his medications, made sure he drank water. Mr. Bennett said little. Mostly he stared out the window, his hands folded neatly in his lap. One rainy afternoon, Claire came by with a grocery bag and found the lights dim, the apartment quieter than usual. "Mr. Bennett?" A faint groan came from the back room. She followed the sound and found him on the floor beside his bed. He wasn't hurt, just disoriented, weak. After helping him up and making sure he was okay, she began to tidy up a bit. That's when she noticed it. A small wooden box tucked behind a stack of old shoe boxes in the bedroom closet. It looked like it hadn't been touched in years. "May I?" she asked gently. He nodded slowly, almost reluctantly. Inside the box was a leather-bound journal, worn, faded. Smelled of tobacco and time. On the front, etched in careful script, William Bennett, 1969. Claire sat by the bedside lamp and began to read aloud. April 4th, 1969, Da Nang. Another patrol today. Lost Simmons in the field. I can still hear his voice. I told him I'd write to his mother. I will. She looked up. Mr. Bennett's eyes were glistening. He whispered, "I never did. I never wrote to her." Claire swallowed the lump in her throat. Over the next hour, she read more. letters to fallen friends, regrets etched into paper, memories from a war long buried. But there was more pages about a woman named Margaret. She used to leave violets on my porch, never knocked, just flowers and silence. I should have asked her to stay. Claire paused again, her voice soft. Who was she? Bennett smiled, tears forming. Someone I should have loved better. The next few days brought a shift in the air. Claire couldn't stop thinking about that journal. With Mr. Bennett's permission, she brought a small tape recorder and asked if he'd be willing to talk. At first, he hesitated. Then he nodded. She pressed record. He spoke of jungles and fear, of buddies lost in ambushes, of coming home to a world that didn't want to hear it. People would cross the street when I wore my uniform. They didn't ask how we were. They just wanted us to disappear. Claire's eyes welled up again. Later that week, she made a decision. She scanned a few pages of the journal, posted them on a private veteran support forum. She wrote, "This man lives alone. He served. He has stories no one ever heard. I think he deserves to be seen." The post went viral quietly. No hashtags. No fanfare. Just hundreds of shares, dozens of comments from people saying, "I think I served with him. That handwriting looks familiar. I knew Simmons. We trained together." Within days, letters started arriving, handwritten, typed. Some with photos of young men in uniforms, others with old maps, unit insignias, yellow dog tags taped to the corners. Claire read them aloud to Mr. Prom. Bennett, who sat silently as memories filled the room like ghosts. Then, the doorbell rang. It was a man in his 70s, cane, veteran cap. "William?" he said. Bennett stood slowly, and for the first time in decades he embraced someone who remembered, someone who was there. Then came another, and another. Old friends. Brothers. Strangers who only knew his name from a fading patch sewn on a jacket. Something changed in Mr. Bennett after that day. He sat up straighter, spoke with more clarity. There was light in his eyes, memories that didn't just hurt now. They mattered. Claire saw it, and so did the others. The visitors kept coming. Some brought photos, others brought stories. And one man, a former journalist, brought a camera. "Would you let me record this?" he asked gently. Mr. Bennett thought for a moment, then nodded. And so, the stories were preserved. The footage was raw, uncut clips of a man remembering. The muddy fields, the fear, the laughter, the pain of coming home in silence. Claire uploaded the video with a simple title, "He Served, He Remembers, Let's Not Forget." Within a week, it had over 300 views. Then came the letters, then the interviews. And then, the call from a state official. They wanted to present Mr. Bennett with a long-overdue service medal, one that had been lost in paperwork decades earlier. At first, he resisted. "I didn't do anything special," he whispered. Claire squeezed his hand. "But your silence was special," she said. "And now your voice is even more so." The ceremony was small, just the way he wanted, held in the courtyard of the nursing home. Veterans lined up in rows, some in wheelchairs, others standing proud in old uniforms that had somehow survived the years. The medal was pinned to his chest by a general. Flashbulbs popped. Applause rang out. But Mr. Bennett wasn't smiling for the cameras. He was looking up, eyes glistening, mouth trembling. Then he whispered, just loud enough for Claire to hear, "This is for Simmons, for every one of them." And she knew at that moment his burden was a little lighter. The crowd dispersed. The medal ceremony ended. But something lingered in the air like a hymn only the heart could hear. Mr. Bennett sat quietly under the old oak tree in the courtyard, medal still on his chest, a folded flag in his lap. Claire sat beside him holding a copy of the journal. It was worn now, creased, dog-eared, tear-stained. "Do you regret writing it?" she asked softly. He shook his head. "No, it saved me." She nodded, placing the journal gently in his lap. "Then let it save others too." Weeks later, the journal was published online, not just the stories, but the silence between the lines. It became a digital memorial for every voice that was never heard, for every hero who came home to nothing but walls. Schools shared it. Veteran groups passed it around. Even younger generations read it aloud on Veterans Day. And through it all, Mr. Bennett never asked for anything. He just watched, quietly proud, as the world finally remembered. He passed peacefully, months later. The journal was placed on his chest before they closed the casket, a final salute from a life once forgotten, now immortal.